Before this review starts, I want to get it right off the bat, like upfront clear that this is spoiler free explicitly. I know there's probably a lot of reviews out for this movie right now that probably talk in more depth about the surprises here, because there are surprisingly a lot of them, of course, but I want to keep it right off the bat. I know a lot of you are going to watch this review to see if you want to watch the movie, and I don't want to ruin any of the surprise for you. I think that it's one of the worst things a movie reviewer can do, so I'm going to keep it spoiler free as always on this channel, but I just want to give you a heads up if you're like worried about watching this review and you're like, oh, I don't want anything to get revealed to me. You're in a safe space. You'll be fine. I promise. I'm not into superhero films as a whole ever. I've never been throughout my life. I had a brief like Marvel phase when I was like really little, but as I've gotten into film and I've studied it, I haven't really fallen back into the genre itself. That being said, I've always loved Deadpool. I think that the first two movies are pretty good. I just love how Ryan Reynolds is so game to go fully into this character. He has a very present charm about him, has a lot of charisma, and his character here in this film series is just so different from anything that I've ever seen in a superhero film before. And that being said, I want to get off the bat that this is, as I recognize, the first attempt to bring Deadpool to the MCU. If you don't know, the first two films in the Deadpool series were 20th Century Fox licensed by Marvel, which meant that it wasn't a part of the MCU, which is the main Marvel universe. It was its own separate thing, but now they're bringing it into that universe. I want to recognize that I know it is tough to translate this property to the MCU. It is graphic and profane. If you have not seen the first two films and don't know what you're getting into, it is R-rated for a reason. Very graphic, very in your face, very visceral. And to its credit, I feel like it does as best a job translating it to the MCU as it can. It kind of makes it more accessible to the everyday superhero fan. That said, it just feels off when compared to the other films that did what this film tries to do so expertly. Everything here feels very in line with the MCU formula, which is sad to see because the first two films were so original in terms of execution and premise, and so different in tone and atmosphere that here, it feels like you're just watching an MCU film with Deadpool in it more than it does an actual Deadpool film. The humor just feels subdued. It doesn't feel like Ryan Reynolds really has the same energy going into it as he did in the last two films. The writing here doesn't feel as fresh and invigorating. It also just feels stale and kind of generic. The action also feels subdued as well as the humor does. I know that we were kind of spoiled in the second film because David Leitch comes from a stunt-driven background and he, of course, directed the last film. And I have to say that the second film still has the best action choreography. Here, everything just feels not as well tuned. And I think Sean Levy's a fantastic director in his own right. I think he's a very good director, but I don't think he was the right choice to kind of direct those action sequences. I don't think he's the right fit for this type of film. And the plot just feels like generic Marvel structure. It has a very generic villain, very generic motives, and overall, it's very fan servicey, which is what I don't like about it. I, for one, like fan service and references when it's done well. When the story's in line, when everything else is in place, and you throw in references here and there, it's fun. But where this film and No Way Home, back like a few years ago, both lose me is in the department where they make that fan service like the driving factor of this film. I know it's fun in the moment, but looking back on this, I know people are caught up in like the high of watching this. I see a lot of positive reviews. I want to say I don't want to rain on your parade. If you like this movie, you like this movie, have fun with it. That's all I want with films in general. But I will say, I feel like people are going to look back on this a few years from now and say, it's a good film, but I think expectations were kind of way too high going out of it because of those fan service and references. Same thing with No Way Home. No Way Home released like a few years ago. Everyone was proclaiming it to be one of the best superhero films ever made. And then as time has passed, people have recognized that Marvel really manipulates audiences into feeling that way because of the references they stuff into this film. And it's very prevalent here. The cameos and references, again, are very fun. I want to reiterate that. This film is fun. That said, the execution from a cinematic standpoint, and that's just like me because I study film, I analyze film, I review film from a critical lens. I just can't get behind the fan service because it's the driving force of the plot, and there's nothing really substantial to be found here. There's definitely positives here, though. I don't want to just rag on this movie the entire time. Ryan Reynolds, as always, as Deadpool, is fantastic. Here, even though he lacks a little bit of that energy and humor, it's still fun. Like, he really understands his character. His humor style really fits with what the character is trying to do with the humor, and overall, he's just so charismatic to watch here. From start to finish, all across the board here, very fun. And Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine is just fantastic. I was really intrigued to see how they would handle his character coming back because he hasn't been seen in like Marvel movies in a while. And it's done with a very great angle. he just plays the role so well. I watched the X-Men films growing up. So of course, seeing him again back on the big screen is just a very heartfelt moment for the inner child in me, and I really appreciate that. And I feel like a lot of audiences are going to feel that too. Matthew McFadden is also great in this film. I love him in Succession. He's great here. And Emma Corrin is fantastic as the villain too. She really goes all in. She's very menacing and also very funny at times. She kind of balances that humor and that menacing feel with a kind of impressive air that you weren't really expecting from her performance, but it's done very well here. And it's funny. I mean, like, Deadpool at its core is a funny film, first and foremost. I watched this with a packed, sold-out audience in an IMAX auditorium in my local city, and they were having a blast. Like, the laughter was roaring through the theater across the board. It's a very clever film in how it, again, breaks the fourth wall, very reference-y, and it's due in part to the writing, but also Ryan Reynolds' ability to kind of just improvise and go off the moment. So from that standpoint, if you're looking for just like Deadpool classic humor, it's fun. It's definitely engaging, and it keeps you interested and invested. And it's definitely one of the better MCU films to come out in like recent memory, by far. It's like not even close. But it just doesn't feel the same. And I think that's the most disappointing thing about this film for me personally, is that I went into this film expecting, it's a part of the MCU, sure, at this point, but I expected something more in line with the other Deadpools, and that's kind of why I was let down. I'm interested to see as time passes and I'm able to sit on it more, how I feel about it, if I like it more, or if I like it less. But for now, I feel like I'm in the middle of the road. I think it's a pretty great, like, fun time. Do I think it's great cinema? No. I think it's a great MCU film, but I don't think it succeeds as like a Deadpool film. I'm sorry to say. That's why I'm giving Deadpool and Wolverine a 70 out of 100. Deadpool and Wolverine releases in theaters everywhere this Friday, July 26th. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. As always, if you're new to my channel, please do not forget to click that subscribe button down below, like the video, and comment down below, and also turn on push notifications to be notified whenever new videos drop on my channel. With that being said, this is Mitchell signing off. Till next time. Peace out.